I wrote this book as a promise to my mother that I would do this to help people that are in abusive situations and didn't have to do what she did for freedom. So I said, Mama, I promise you, I will write this book. I sat every night at my kitchen counter with my computer, and I would remember the stories that she would tell me as a little 6-year-old girl. She was about 16 when it was time to come to America, and her little sister was 6 years younger, and her mom and dad. So they set out for Naples to catch the big ship to come to America, land of the free. Well, on the ship, because my mother was a live wire and she liked kidding and joking and talking to the people and whatever, and she felt good about coming to America. Well, on the ship there was this kind of good-looking, dark, shady guy, Cosimo Cardinale, with the black slick hair, who kept looking at her. And she says, "Why you look at me, old man?" He says, "Shut up." He says, "You're going to be my wife." She says, "I don't marry you." She says, "Go away." He says, "I'm going to make you pay for this." So when they got off the ship and they wound up at Ellis Island, my grandfather had friends. They wound up in Boston, Mass, and he went fishing. And the nights that he was gone fishing, this man, Cosimo Cardinale, he would come over to the house and he'd pick the weakest link there was in a chain, which was my grandmother. And he would come over and visit with her, very charming. She was taken in by this handsome man, and he goes, "I gotta tell you what happened with your daughter and me." She goes, "What? What happened?" He says, "Well, she's sleeping with me on the ship." No, young girl, no do this." He said, "She did, because she loved me." Mama said, my grandmother, she goes, "Well, then she got to marry you." And he said, "That's why I come over here, to tell you. She has to marry me." So my grandmother got a hold of my grandfather when he came home from fishing and told him the story about my mother supposedly sleeping with this man, Cosimo Cardinale, which you didn't do in 1906. She says, "No, Papa, I don't do this." He says, "Then I'm going to kill this man, and I'm going to beat up your mother." She says, "No, Papa, no beat up Mama. No, it's the truth, Papa." She felt that she didn't want her mother to have this beating, so she said, yeah, she did. Immediately the wedding was planned. She took the abuse, the beatings, the humiliation, the hair pulling, the clothes torn off, kicking her on the floor. She took all this. He even would kick her out in the street with the 4 little kids, throwing food at them. "Eat like pigs, because that's what you all are." She took all the beatings, the torture for 14 years. In 14 years, her daughter Mary Ann was 10 years old. It was Christmas Eve, 1920, in Monterey, California. Cosimo came home drunk, and he says, "Tonight I'm going to have a Christmas present from my daughter, Maria." My mother said, "What kind of a Christmas present?" He said, "She's going to sleep with her father." My mother didn't believe him until he pulled out the stiletto knife. And he always slept with this knife under his pillow, along with his loaded gun. So he pulled out the stiletto knife, was going to stab my mother. My mother, who he taught how to use the gun, grabbed the gun from under his pillow, and she went boom, boom, boom. She actually blew his head off. She called her mother. She said, "Mama, come over, get the kids. I just killed the Ganarajata." Ganarajata means wild dog. She gained her freedom, but she didn't mean to gain it that way. But she had to because he was going to rape their daughter Mary. So the police came and handcuffed her. They took her to the Monterey jail. It's called Colton Hall. It's still there. The next day, there was a crowd of maybe 200 Italian men and women that went down Alvarado Street, which is the main street in Monterey. They went to Colton Hall, broke down the jail cell that she was in, grabbed my mother, tore all her clothes off, and they were ready to hang her. And they had the pole that they knocked that big door down. They had the rope that they were going to put around her neck. The police took off their jackets, covered my mother up, called the police in Salinas, California, which is about 30 miles away, and took my mother to the Salinas jail for protection. This little lady all by herself, defending herself for what she went through. 14 years she went through this torture with this man. The jury went out. My mother was scared. She couldn't sleep that night. She told me, she says, I wait. The next day, the men and the women have come in and they say, not guilty. The judge said, Mary, you're a free woman. Is there anything you want? Anything we can do? She said, yes, I wanted my gun and I wanted my knife. They gave it to her. I have the papers showing that the knife and the gun were given back to Maria Cardinale, and she left a free woman.